to not only the audience, but the actors as well. The show runs 1 hour and 30 minutes without an intermission. So if you should find that you need to use the bathroom, you can exit through the back doors here, and the bathrooms are out in the lobby. The back doors, the side doors here with exit, and one in the back are our emergency exits, should you need them for any reason, but I hope that you don't. And this is our last show tonight, so we're really excited to share this with you, to share this experience, and please make sure that you come and support Drury Arts Productions in the future. I know you all will. I know you're a great audience. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
This play is based on interviews by members of our theater company after the incidents at Manachap, California in February of 2021. The interviews were filmed. Tonight's performances are based on those interviews, as well as on available primary sources, including letters, newspaper articles, recordings, and security camera footage.
Should I start?
We're already rolling.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start with a story. When I was much younger, way before I was involved with law enforcement, I had this idea I wanted to be an artist, and this was New York. I lived in a 5th floor walk-up, tiny studio, and I'm trying to be a painter, so I'd wait tables during the day and I'd stay up late doing watercolors. I'd stay up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and that's when I noticed I had this neighbor. I'd hear his alarm go off at 3:30, and he'd say, "Not again." Then, at exactly 4:15, I heard him fumble with his lock, so I crept to my own front door. The door had this big peephole about this big that was covered with a metal plate that you had to side aside to look through. I flicked off my own light, slid that little plate aside to look through, and I screamed! An involuntary scream that comes out like that. It's very different. It's not like a movie scream. It was more like, So I scream. I fall back against the bathroom door. Huge commotion as it hit the ground, because what had happened was, as I slid that little plate aside to look through, and there was an eye! He was looking in at me! I'm on the floor, and I just freeze. Finally, from the other side of the door, I heard the sound of a guy picking up his keys and start down the stairs. Now, I had to see what this guy looked like, so I picked myself up, pressed myself up against the door to once again look through. There's that eye again! It's mine? It's the reflection of my own eye. I realized it just in time to see this freaked out postman heading down the stairs. That was the most scared I had ever been, and it was just me, scaring me. The only other time I heard that scream, what a real scream sounds like, was that night, when I heard 241 people make it all at once. I told that story to Candelaria, and she said, "You're missing part of the lesson. It was mostly about being startled, but what was the first thing you did? You flicked off the light switch. People are naturally scared of the dark." When I was 8, we lived in a house in Dunbar, North Carolina. That was about a quarter of a mile away from Kendall Avenue, the main shopping street. It was a tall house, and from my bed...
Keep going.
It was a tall house, and from my bedroom on the 4th floor, I could see a billboard. It was an ad for Diet Coke. In the picture, 2 guys and a girl were clowning around with each other, but exaggerated. They were posing for each other. I loved that billboard. To me, it was a picture of infinity. Models acting like people acting like models. It was the first time I encountered recursion, something that bends back into itself, that refers to itself, and so becomes a loop. My name is Candelaria Ortiz, and when the incident at the Oak Box occurred, they were trying to understand it from every perspective: criminal, psychological, biological, and philosophical. That's why they brought me in.
You see, well, I have this picture. We were on our way to church. Everybody looked so nice that I lined us up with the timer, and I took one. Me with my arm squeezing the 3 of them. And before I could take the next one, I looked, and it was a miracle shot. The Hail Mary of all impromptu photos. So I had it printed, 8 by 10. and I put it in a frame. The frame, though, the little cardboard leg that balances it broke, and so instead I had it leaned on top of the cabinet. That night, all 3 kids went out to play, and I had seen that it slid down, so I went to go and pick it back up. So, one moment of grace as they walked out that door. I looked at that picture.
Manachap isn't a town anybody outside of Amador County has ever heard of, but everybody's surprised at how pretty it is. Once you get off at 234, it's all rolling hills and green. Most people's job has something to do with parsley farming. People never think of it, but yes, there are parsley farms, big ones. Not a lot of people move here, but not a lot of people leave. They like it because it's peaceful and safe.
My wife had pink eye, and I went to go pick up our friend Harlan. When I get there, he says, "You're just in time. That kitchen sink's a disaster." I'm a contractor, not a plumber, but I say all right. After about 5 minutes of waiting or so, I say, "It's gonna be the clog of the show. You cool with blowing off that show?" He said, "Sure, and we can get some drinks afterwards." I say, "All right, but we're gonna pretend that we went to the show."
So I'm brand new to this job. I mean, it's my 4th day ever as a detective, and I really want to do a good job, but I can already tell that I'm not. And it's stupid things. Being new in a place gets in your way in ways you don't expect. Why are there 2 conference rooms with the same name? The fax machine. Do you press 9? Do you not press 9? And people are not... Just edit this out, please. People are not as nice to me as I would be in their situation. And I can't figure out where to put the paper in this fax machine.
That was a printer.
So, for the most part, I'm thinking, how could things get worse? The whole incident happens, and things get worse and worse and worse.
So, me and Mary Ring were sitting on the ridge with the oak box just talking of the world. Then suddenly, there's this crazy loud sound. It's a foghorn-like sound. It seemed like it came from the oak box, but Mary said it must be a part of the play.
I'm a forensic engineer. If a bridge collapses, or a dam gets wet, or there's a fire, my job is to figure out what went wrong. Some of the cases are famous, like the Hartford Circus Fire in 1944 killed about 168 people, and the Great White Fire in 2003 killed about 100. You usually tend to notice the doors. There was a famous fire in Chicago of 1904. The Iroquois fire was a bit after Christmas, and so kids were out of school, and the theater was full of families. There was only standing room on the 2nd level. What had happened was a curtain caught fire, and the people who rushed first to the doors realized about half a second too late that the doors opened in. However, people were panicked and crowded them, so they were pressed against the doors with the hinges going the wrong way. You usually tend to notice with a door that's trapped people before that there are scuff marks about halfway up because our instinct is to kick. If there was more time, then there are dents, sometimes large ones where someone got something like a fire extinguisher or a dresser, something heavy. But the doors at the oak box, you looked at those doors and you just thought, what the hell?
When I get home, my wife runs out the door, and she throws her arms around me, and I have absolutely no idea what's going on. But it's clear that I shouldn't say, "We went to the play and got drinks afterwards." She tells me to look at the news, and I'm expecting Channel 2, but she turns on CNN.
I wasn't surprised they could find me, but I was surprised that they thought to look. My name is Rickenock Boehner. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Toronto. I study fear.
"911, what's your emergency?
I don't know.
Is it life-threatening?
Yes.
Are you safe right now?
No.
I'm sending someone, more than one. The cars are already on the way. What's your name, sweetie?
Angela.
Angela. I'm sending them to the Oak Box. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's a play tonight. The high school's doing a play. Is that where you are?
Yes.
In the theater.
Yes.
And somebody's hurt.
Everybody.
What's that again? Where are you in the theater?
I'm just standing on the stage.
Take a very, very deep breath. Hold it.
It didn't make any sense. Suddenly, this tiny town is the site of a tragedy that no one's ever seen or heard of before. 241 people fall unconscious while watching a high school play that the program tells us is called Trap. We didn't really have a lot of events for the timeline. We know everybody's fine at 11 after 8 because that's when the usher texts her older brother to pick her up after the show. At 9:10, two kids are sitting below the theater on a ridge and hear what they think is a foghorn, but they just assume it's part of the play. Then 9:22, we have the 911 call. A girl named Angela Laura, who it turns out is the only person still conscious. When we finally get her out of there, she won't speak. She either doesn't know what happened or she's too scared to say it.
The Oak Box was international news. I was hiking in the woods near Clovis, New Zealand when I heard about it. People fallen unconscious in a theater, and that was key. I had conflicting thoughts about it. On one hand, I thought, how horrible. But on the other, I thought, there it is. That's a proof.
I didn't find out about it until morning, when it was on every single news channel. I had that weird feeling you get when you see something on TV that's right in your neighborhood. The Oak Box? Again? There's no way this is a coincidence. Everyone was like, that was 75 years ago. But I remember thinking, I don't care if it was 75 years ago. One theater, two tragedies, there's gotta be a connection.
Minichap Herald, March 19, 1946. Bond Measure 2A, funding to build a new theater palace on Semper Bluff, passed with a 54% vote. According to Mayor Roger Wegman, we intend to use this money to construct a building that will attract visitors to Minichap from all over the country. The search for an architect is set to begin immediately.
From architect Brand Hillock's winning bid for the Minichap Theater project. Theaters have soaring spaces, fly spaces, where the scenery can be pulled up, out of view. My plan extends the metaphor of flight throughout the building. At the sides, half arches will rise like wings, lit from within. My hope is that the building will be known far and wide as the Minichap Angel.
Minichap Herald, April 1st, 1947. Ground was broken yesterday on the Minichap Angel, our city's 700-seat theater. Mayor Roger Wegman overturned the ceremonial first shovels of earth, then declared that the new theater would be a boon to our economy and even more to our spirits.
Letter from Norma Pike to Adelaide Pike. April 3rd, 1947. Dear sister, I miss you. I miss you and there's no one in Minichap I can tell this to. I'm disgusted with myself. I had Jonathan all to myself for 3 hours and I said nothing. We had dinner at Chancey's Cream Room, but it was somber. He's been so quiet ever since Pat moved to San Francisco. Why do men have so few friends? He said nothing, and all I could think about was the question, and I simply wasn't brave enough to ask it.
Minichap Herald, April 4th, 1947. 3 days in construction halted on the Minichap Civic Theater. According to Foster Wellingham, chief engineer, synastic techniques have shown that the granite bedrock on Semper Bluff is twice as thick as previously believed. Our plans call for dressing rooms below ground, as well as stage machinery that includes trapdoors. This delay will be a few weeks at most.
Norma Pike to Adelaide Pike, May 25th, 1947. Adelaide, he said yes. I can't tell you how happy I am. Saturday night, we walked out onto the bluff. We started at the ships and the lights, and when he turned away, I bent down on one knee with my grandfather's wedding band. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What does it look like I'm doing?" He said, "That's not how it's done." I said, "Jonathan, we're going to be married for at least 50 years. Nobody has to know how it began." Adelaide, I am lit from within, electrified, but not in a bad way this time. Must rush off. The Crowleys are coming over, so I have to buy a new sofa.
Minichap Herald, May 31st, 1947. Local boy vanishes. 10-year-old Marcus Tumble was reported missing by his parents Tuesday night after he disappeared during a family picnic. He'd been playing hide and seek with his cousins, said his father, Guillermo. Then, they went to play on the beach below Semper Bluff, and he never came back. Marcus is 5 foot 2 inches tall and was wearing white shorts and a long black sweater. He's missing a front tooth.
Letter from Norma Pike to Adelaide Pike, June 2nd, 1947.
Sorry for not being clear on the topic of the Crowleys and the sofa. Last week, I was certain that Jonathan would rebuff my proposal, and it drove me positively frenzied. The morning before, I was alone in the house, and I banged the south wall of the living room with my shoe over and over and over again, till I was calm. The sofa came just in time, so I was able to blame the dents in the walls on the movers.
Minichap Herald, June 5th, 1947. Yesterday, by a vote of 5 to 4, the Board of Supervisors authorized new blueprints for the Civic Theater. According to Supervisor Zed Oriental, we've had no choice given to our updated understanding of the geology of the bluff. We've had to abandon the idea of wings.
Norma Pike to Adelaide Pike, June 7th, 1947. Every moment of every day is the best time of my life. The only shadow is it's so easy to tip Jonathan into silence. Like last week, he was so quiet after I made a comment on the kilt he was wearing for the Scottish festival. Then I said to him, "Darling, don't misconstrue this, but I'm glad your business went under. Now you're all mine."
Time Magazine, September 2nd. For the first time in history, the placid farming community of Manachap, California is locking their doors. The disappearance of 10-year-old Marcus Tumble has unsettled this community an hour and a half north of Santa Barbara. Marcus disappeared while at a family reunion beneath an area called Semper Bluff. In the absence of plausible natural reasons, residents are looking at each other warily. Marcus's mother, Thea, finds it suspicious that he should go missing on the day of the Scottish festival. All those men we'd never seen before walking all over town wearing dresses. The police say there's no evidence, but I don't need evidence.
Minichap Herald, September 24th, 1947. Man arrested in Marcus Tumble case. Police on Thursday announced that they've taken into custody a suspect in the case of missing 10-year-old Marcus Tumble. The man in custody is 33-year-old
Jonathan! September 24th, Adelaide, they took Jonathan to jail. It's unbelievable. They say he had something to do with that boy who went missing. It's ridiculous. They won't even say why they suspect him.
Letter from Gander Mayen Esquire to Sampson Bonet Esquire. The trial proceeds well. On the stand, Mrs. Tumble pointed to a scratch in the float ring that Mr. Mollusk had in his furnace room. She positively identified it as the float ring that had belonged to her son. But Mrs. Tumble is not our only ally. Watch the jurors, they watch Miss Pike. When her fiancé grimaces, she grimaces. When he looks downcast, so does she. She impeaches herself as a character witness. She will be desperate to testify on his behalf. We must not appear too eager.
Excerpt from trial at courthouse. See cross-examination of Jonathan Mullins.
So, the float ring that I'm holding here, you claim to pick up on the beach, is that right?
Yes.
And why would you do that?
Oh no, I just did.
Were you afraid you might drown?
Laughter in the courtroom.
Objection.
Sustained.
So, on the afternoon of May 30th, the afternoon that Marcus Tumble disappeared, you claimed to have been taking a long walk, no, a 4-hour walk on the beach, is that right?
Yes.
Were you in the habit of taking 4-hour walks in the middle of your workday?
No.
Had you ever taken such a walk?
No.
Did anyone see you?
It was a weekday afternoon.
You work at Mumsy Limited, shipping and transcription, as a typist, is that right?
Yes.
And how long has it been your employment?
3 weeks.
3 weeks, but you felt comfortable taking 4 hours off.
I needed to think about the world, my place in the world.
So, Mr. Mollusk, you took this walk without telling anyone, is that right?
I wrote a note saying I wasn't feeling well.
And who did you give this note to?
I meant to give it to my supervisor, Mr. Clark, but I later found it in my own pocket.
Minichap Herald, November 12th. Verdict announced, swift justice. After deliberating for only 5 hours, the Jonathan Mullis jury announced a guilty verdict on account of kidnapping and guilty as well on account of murder. There was a commotion in the front room as Mullis' fiancée began to wail so loudly that she had to be forcibly removed from the courtroom. But
the murderer was never to spend a minute behind bars. In an extraordinary scene, 2 hours later, the boy's father and 3 armed men rushed to the bailiff as they made their way from the courthouse by the sea to the transports. There, the assailants grabbed Mr. Mollusk and pulled him into the ocean, where they held his head underwater until he was still. A witness reported that the incident itself confirmed Mollusk's guilt, as he may not have moved to free himself, allowed himself to be held underwater without a struggle. November 17th. Body of a child found. On Wednesday, construction workers on the site of the Civic Theater uncovered the body of a child. Authorities have confirmed that Marcus Tumble was found beneath the trapdoor of the long-delayed theater. It's a 1 in a million tragedy, said Clifton Ailes, chief supervisor. The theater was sealed for safety, but one of the lower windows had come unlatched. He must have made his way in. From there, he appears to have made his way through the still shallow trapdoor, and when that heavy door fell shut, he wouldn't have had a chance. Minichap Herald, February 1st.
Los Angeles Times, February 2nd.
Time Magazine, February 7th.
The opening night of our Civic Theater was home to the most extraordinary spectacle ever witnessed by this community.
3 months after the discovery of a boy beneath the still under construction trap of the theater.
The tragedy known to every member of our town.
The opening of the theater was finally underway.
With the night drenched in a sudden squall, the capacity audience stashed their umbrellas, shook off their coats, eager to put the events of the past few months out of their heads.
The audience watched, rapt, as Medea, passionately portrayed by Broadway actress Lenya Rasmussen, called her children to her breast one final time. But, as Medea wailed her vengeance, Norma Pike, fiancée of the unfortunately accused Jonathan Mollusk, entered the theater, dressed in all green.
Less a dress than a costume.
Just like the ocean,
she held aloft a glass.
Tall, green, and full of liquid.
Held it high like a torch and proclaimed,
"Welcome to this theater, your theater."
Most of the audience would later report they believed her to be a part of the play.
"This ugly box of a theater will be remembered, but not in the way you hope. No one will think of this dank shell of an oak without thinking of the 3 people who died because of it. The boy who was suffocated, the man who was murdered because of the boy, and the woman who cursed this theater for all eternity by drowning in it."
Some looked away. The rest wished they had, as
she brought the glass to her mouth and tipped it back.
Poured it straight into her throat.
Aspirated the entire contents of the glass.
Swallowed it without swallowing.
Her eyes bored into the audience until they went dark, and she fell dead to the floor.
In front of 700 people, Miss Pike drowned herself with a glass of seawater.
Page 71 of Haunted California by Naomi Sanderson. In the years since the triple tragedy, dozens of people, moonlight sweethearts, schoolboy daredevils, have looked up at a single mica window in the theater lobby and seen a figure. Sometimes a boy, trapped and afraid. Others see the outline of a man, eyes closed, resigned. But on the rare occasion that storm watchers find themselves overtaken, drenched, the shade illuminated by lightning flash is a woman. She holds a sea green goblet and smiles, an invitation. Drink with me.
After the incident at the Oak Box occurred, one of the things we wanted to know was why Minichap? Why the Oak Box? My theory was that they might have chosen a place where there's some fright built in just by being in the building. Everyone knows the story of Norma Pike, but it's a local tragedy. On impulse, really, I googled scary theaters. Its top result: 4 terrifying theaters. Princess Theatre, Melbourne, Australia; Manila Film Center, Pasquay City, Philippines; Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, London. And there it was, 4th out of 4, the Oak Box, Minichap, California. I got chills because I realized that's how they found the Oak Box.
It was that Sunday morning, 18 hours after the Oak Box incident. 236 audience members and 5 members on the cast on the ground. Breathing, thank God, but 2 questions. The main one being, what happened to these people? And the second was the doors. How do we make sense of those doors?
Could you tell us your name, please?
I'm Avishai Lenzer. I'm the Chief Forensic Engineer with the California Department of Infrastructure.
Efren Salas. I'm a firefighter with Station 41, Manachap County.
My name is Isa Fuente. I'm a neurobiologist for UC Berkeley.
I was the first person into the theater that night. I saw the girl on stage. I'm the one who carried her out. Before I picked her up, she said the one thing we couldn't figure out. 4 words.
The first thing I noticed about the bodies was the lack of something known as relative resonance. It's the tendency of people who know each other in a tragic situation to cluster. After a fire, you might find the bodies of friends huddled, or a parent wrapped around a child. But the bodies in the oak box were different. People who weren't related sometimes toppled on top of each other, and people who loved each other in life were sprawled in different directions.
Theater camera 1.
What about this girl? Sarah West? She was almost to the door. Was she leaving early?
No, look at the way she fell. She was running.
And she's wearing earbuds? She wasn't paying attention to the play.
Can you tell what she was listening to?
Gymnopedie number 1?
Gymnopedie number 1 by Eric Saute?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Something else is strange. Heish? Something wrong?
I didn't know you knew my name.
What else do you notice that's strange about the position of the bodies?
The programs. So many people are holding them.
That's what I noticed too.
Holding them like this, like they'd been reading them up until the last second.
It was the speed that threw me. What could have overcome these people so fast? Could have been an electrical impulse or some sort of gas leak? We scoured the ventilation system and there was nothing.
I wanted to be in the theater a lot. I wanted to spend time with them.
I spoke to the fireman and asked, what could overcome these people so fast?
And I said, how do you know it was fast?
Of course it was fast.
That's when they brought me in. Figuring out how long a body has been unconscious is actually not that hard to do when you have the right equipment. When a person loses consciousness, their body temperature drops by 2.5 degrees, but that usually takes a while. So we attach electrodes to their foreheads, microthermometers, and what we found out was a surprise to say the least.
It didn't make any sense.
The first to fall was Paul Schmidt in A13. Next was Anna Stroheim 3 rows back in D41. The first 26 people didn't lose consciousness all at the same time. They went down one by one.
I said, are you sure about this?
Theater camera 1 continuous.
I'm positive. Look at this. It's the seating chart for the oak box. A13, D41. What do you notice?
Nothing.
Next, F42.
So front row, aisle, then the other side of the aisle.
Then Lilas Rahay, L19.
L19 is the back row L, which is the horizontal aisle in the middle. So it started in the front and the back and the sides.
Exactly. It worked that way till the 26th person, Franklin James.
I know Frank.
Whatever happened to these people, it started on the edges and worked its way in, like something cooking.
This doesn't seem like a natural phenomenon. This seems like attackers.
Agreed.
241 people fallen unconscious, one by one, like they got snuck up on, but that doesn't make sense. I don't see how humans could do this.
Meaning what?
I'm not sure.
Hey, can you guys shut up for a second? Did you guys hear that? Over there. Again, over there.
I don't hear anything.
Again, over there. I lived in Alaska till I was 10. I have really great hearing, as your ears, they're always covered. It's like a chirp. Again, over there. The bodies are making sounds.
Which bodies?
All of them.
That Sunday morning, we had 2 mysteries. That Sunday afternoon, we had 3. The main one still being what happened to these people. The second, what were the sounds Efren was hearing? And again, The doors. Those people had 45 minutes to leave, and those doors were wide open.
Officials are baffled today by events in a small California town.
Top of our story tonight, a mystery.
On Monday morning, we put out footage. The tips came flooding in. By noon, we had gotten messages from 5 different continents. Our investigators from other counties helped me check out every single lead.
I got the slush pile. It was bigger than all the others combined, and it had more crazy than I knew was in the world.
Stop putting all those dead people on TV.
Are those people
Stop showing those
Are they even witches?
Stop showing
That must have been one boring play.
Transcript of a call from Seattle, Washington to the Oak Box hotline, October 7th, 7:32 p.m.
Oak Box Hotline.
Hello, my name is Marion J. I'm a professor at the University of Washington. What I'm about to say will sound crazy.
Uh-huh.
Is this a secure line?
Yes. Why?
I'm gonna tell you something, but you're gonna have to promise not to hang up on me.
I can't promise you that.
You've got a theater full of people who've fallen unconscious, right?
Yes?
By now, you've probably figured out that they were attacked one by one.
How do you know that?
I think you're dealing with something called Farinox.
Farinox? What are Farinox?
Start with what they're not, which is human.
Now I'm gonna hang up.
Or are your victims still alive?
Yes?
They won't be if you hang up. You have about a week until their heart starts to stop. They're not human, but they look human. Hello? Hello?
What?
Somebody there? Sorry, I thought I heard something. You haven't heard of these Farinox because they don't want you to know, and because the attacks are rare. The last attack was in Gulf Skip, Scotland, and that was 16 years ago. And then there was an attack in Iceland 16 years before that. And then 16, and then 16. This is a swarming behavior, like locusts. These creatures attack, mate, and then they all die. All but one. A caretaker who watches over the larvae while they grow. And what that means is that all Farinox are 16 years old, except one.
Okay, thank you. I've made note of your call, and we'll get back to you if necessary.
We've had an unusually high number of new students at Manachap High School this year.
Yes?
And at least one new teacher.
The theater teacher.
What happened to the old one?
She died.
Suddenly, and of no apparent cause?
Yeah, why wouldn't anyone else have heard of these things?
Huh?
What?
Sorry, my house must have just blown a fuse or something. I can't see a thing in here. There's 3 others hunting these Farinox down. At the same time, they're hunting us. Of course, they have an advantage.
Which is what?
They know for sure that we exist.
Who are the other 3 people studying them?
There's a zoologist named Akita Muguruza, an evolutionary biologist named Melissa Tang, and there's a professor at the University of Toronto. He studies fear. Who's there? Who's there?
Then I heard a click.
Call ends at 7:37.
I tried to call back, but it wouldn't go through. I sat in the call room thinking I had a choice to make. I could march into Sergeant Brock's office without knocking and say, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I think I might be onto something. Or I could move on to the next call. The thing is I was new here and I was already messing up. I moved on to the next call.
At first, we didn't know what we were studying, hunting. As it turns out, the key had already been discovered by a Bolivian named Kita Muguruza. She and her postdoc, Abilio Penti, had won the 2017 Nobel Prize in Biology for their work.
We were studying something people had noticed for centuries. It's called the black widow conundrum. When an insect gets caught in a black widow's web, she doesn't attack right away. Instead, she follows a particular, almost ritualized pattern of movements. The struggling moth knows something approaches. Slowly, the insect moves herself into view. Large, black, shiny, the insect panics, jerking the web up and down. As venom flows from the moth into the web, the strands are drenched in the insect's hair, and the widow bathes in it.
It's a brilliant evolutionary strategy because it's a way to get nourishment from a different part of the animal. Every other predator feeds off the meat of its prey, but these creatures subsist off the powerful chemicals secreted by animals who are terrified. They feed on fear.
An animal that feeds on fear has a different hunting strategy than one that feeds on flesh. If terror is what sustains you, you have to create it. And so Pheronox don't chase their prey, they trap it.
The Venus flytrap and the black widow are the two most famous Pheronox, a plant, an insect, but then there was an evolutionary jump.
The idea that a species of Pheronox might be capable of mimicking humans was so hard to get over, we had to take a step back. And that's not how could this happen, but why would it? Why would it be worth it to prey on humans when there are thousands of other animals easier to capture?
Evolution follows the prey. The juicier the prey, the more clever the trap. Pheronox's chosen prey, their only prey, are the creatures on Earth most susceptible to fear.
Human brains evolved in a way that makes them very good at seeing threats on the horizon. Is that a snake in the grass or a branch? Is that sound a lion or thunder? All that worry helped keep us alive for 100,000 years, but when we emerged from the jungle, our capacity for worry didn't disappear, it repurposed itself. And so now, instead of worrying about being eaten by a tiger, we worry about tomorrow's math test.
All of the anxiety that we produce is useless to us, but from a Pheronox point of view, it makes us the equivalent to a large, slow-moving steak.
From the obituary of Marion J., a professor of neuroscience at the University of Washington. Professor J was well-liked and well-respected. His unexpected passing has thrown a cloud over the campus. Professor J is survived by his parents, Martin and Padella J., and by his grandmother, Thelma Lampkin.
Interview with Kenosha Silvering Johnson, October 5th, 8:15 a.m., Manachap High School, second floor counseling office.
And do you know why we're having this conversation?
Because of yesterday.
Can you be more specific?
Because of what happened in the woods.
Because of what you said happened in the woods.
It happened.
You talked to a lot of people yesterday, and you told them all the same story?
Yup.
Now, is this story something you're sure is true, or is it possible you made some of it up?
It was all true.
And that's why we're here today, Kenosha, because that story about what happened in the woods couldn't have possibly happened.
Kenosha came out of the womb perfect, but when she was 3 weeks old, she had a seizure. We were afraid we'd lose her. You could tell right away something had changed.
I remember Kenosha's first day at Manachap because she'd gone up to the audition board and the string for the pencil had broken, so there was no way to put your name on it. So I said, "If you want to audition, I've got a pen." And she said, "My name is Kenosha R. Silverling Johnson."
So the joke very quickly went around. I don't know who said it first, that the R?
The R.
The R.
The R was to distinguish herself.
To distinguish herself from all the other Kenosha Silverling Johnsons.
The kids at our old school could be so mean. Manchap was supposed to be a fresh start.
Thinking back, that was a bad start because you always have that in your head, a little bit of distance.
Kenosha had all the normal emotions, grief and happiness and nervousness, but they weren't wired right. Like, she'd grimace to say, "I love you." She spent her whole life studying people's expressions, and she got quite good at showing the right emotion. But she was acting. It was like she was doing it phonetically. There was one thing she couldn't do, though, and that was to lie. There was too much going on. What do you do with your hands? Do your eyes look up or down? She couldn't calibrate the information.
She told me she couldn't go to homecoming with me because her uncle was an astronaut. I wasn't actually going to ask her, but it still made me feel bad.
I'd give her lessons. I'd say, Kenosha, the situation is you're 2 hours late, and I've been trying to reach you. I'm frantic and I'm angry. Now go. She'd go blank. And I'd say, no, you tell me that your phone ran out of juice. And she'd be awful. I'd say, Kenosha, you have got to master this, or you are going to the most boring teenage years of anybody on earth.
The bench incident was really just an accident. You know those lunch tables, they're long with these long benches, and Kenosha was sitting all by herself. So I walked over and asked if anyone's sitting there, and she said no. So I picked up the bench and moved it to our table so we could fit more people. In the long run, it actually worked in her favor, because when she was sitting there all alone is when Clifton walked over to her.
Clifton? Oh, where to start? Clifton's kind of perfect.
I think he's really, really nice.
Kind?
So sweet.
We don't have, like, homecoming queens or kings or any sort of prom royalty. But if we did, he'd be both kings.
He just walked over and asked if he could sit next to her.
There was one thing, actually. When I first met her, her phone rang, and she didn't even look at who it was, but she made herself smile. When she answered the phone, you could hear it in her voice.
Next thing you know, I look over and they're in the cafeteria and she's making him laugh.
A lot of times she was hilarious on purpose, but not always. Once, I was laughing so hard.
His head literally hits the table.
She once told me, I like you more than water.
You'd see them everywhere together. He'd laugh and stick his arm around her neck.
I couldn't tell if it was romantic or not.
So it's barely a week into school, and there's the new girl standing in front of the audition board, only the string with the pencil was broken.
I'd want to be in a play, so I did some research, and I found the best book on acting, which is Uta Hagen's Respect for Acting. It's pretty famous, and it's great, and you should read it if you're interested in acting at all.
We had talked about the idea of Kenosha being involved in theater because I thought she'd be quite good. She was so good at mimicking people's emotions. I said, well, sweetheart, go for it.
Kenosha, that story that you told people, it made them anxious. It really scared them.
Did they cancel the play?
No.
It didn't scare them enough.
Why do you want the play to be canceled?
Something bad is going to happen.
What's going to happen? Can you just tell me that?
It was really early for the fall play to be happening, but we just went with it. We assumed it had something to do with the Miss Pendulum tragedy.
Marsh Pendulum was one of my best teachers. Such a shock! Just 2 days before the start of school, BAM! Dropped dead of a heart attack. She was 38. She didn't smoke. She exercised. Well, you know how things like that just happen sometimes.
The day of the audition, she burst through the door. I said, how'd it go, sweetheart? She said, I nailed it.
I saw her audition. She was really good, but I told her that you never know.
The next day, she calls me from school, and she's talking really, really fast, and she says, I did get the part. And I say, well, sweetheart, we don't always get everything we expect. And she says, but I was the best one. Even then, there could be all sorts of reasons. She said, no, something's up.
The casting was pretty strange.
We were all looking at the list like, why don't I know any of these names?
Almost every name on the list was new. Practically every kid who got a part was new that year.
When Kenosha would get too excited, she'd lose her skill at imitating. So I started to hear this whoo noise from over the phone. She hung up, and I was afraid something might happen.
We were at the first cast meeting, and I was there to see if I could volunteer for tech. And Kenosha comes marching in and starts to make some sort of announcement. But then she didn't. She started to make beeping noises.
That was a panic attack.
She fell down, hard, one knee. She couldn't breathe. She actually crawled out of the room.
A person who tells a story over and over again, they It gets a performance aspect to it. They subconsciously know which parts are getting a reaction, and the more they tell the story, the more they lean into those aspects of it. The story doesn't get so much memorized as etched. She said, I'm going to tell you a story. Please, just listen.
She said, please, just listen.
Please, just listen. Yesterday, I made it out of school, but I'd hit my left knee.
My left knee. Right here, so I couldn't go very fast.
I was allowed to walk home along the highway as long as I faced the traffic, but I looked behind me, and suddenly there were 3 people way back, and I knew I had to get away from them.
There's that big strip of forest between the highway and the Walmart. And before I jumped in, I looked again, and they were way closer.
The forest's deep, but I cut through it all the time.
The forest's steep, but I cut through it all the time, so I knew I had an advantage. But when I looked back,
I got scared.
I got so scared because they turned in right after me. They wanted me in that forest, and they were fast.
All of a sudden, I hear this sound, crazy loud.
The loudest sound I'd ever heard.
Ever. I can't tell where it's coming from. I'm shaking.
I ran.
I ran faster than I could see.
I looked back once, and this was the thing that scared me more than anything ever.
One by one, their eyes lit up.
Which I know sounds crazy.
I could hear music. I remember there was a carnival, a mini carnival for kids in the Walmart parking lot, with just some bumper cars and a tilt-a-whirl. I could hear the 7-year-old screaming as they went down the dip of the kiddie coaster.
All I needed was to get to them, but I looked back again, and there weren't 3 pairs of lit up eyes.
There were 2.
Where's the other one?
And I have to choose. Do I try to make it to the parking lot carnival, or do I hide in the forest? I know I'm close, but the scariest idea is that I'm just a few feet from safety, and the third one is waiting for me and grabs me in his arms.
And I can't do it. I can't go forward. People don't naturally look up because we've got no predators from up there. So I start climbing a tree.
I start climbing a live oak.
A live oak, and halfway up I freeze. The 2 of them get to me, and then the third one does, and then they don't see me, even though they light the ground with their eyes.
They start to argue.
They start to have an argument about whose fault it was. The 2 of them grab the third one, and he starts to scream, please, no! They hold his head, and one of them says something in his ear. He whispers it, but I hear it completely clear. After he whispers it, the third one starts crying, and he falls over dead onto the roots of the tree. What he whispers is, can I tell you a secret?
Kenosha, can you concentrate a little longer here? You said their eyes lit up. Could those have been flashlights?
No, I know the difference.
Have you ever heard of anyone whose eyes lit up?
No.
And what about those footprints? If what you said is right, there should have been 4 sets of footprints, but they only found yours.
They erased them.
The police followed the tracks right back to the tree. There was nobody there.
They moved it.
What about the sound? It was coming from all over?
It was a foghorn.
There are no foghorns within 200 miles.
It was a foghorn. Foghorns are an example of a phenomenon called duotones, sounds that mean different things in different contexts. In the distance, a foghorn is comforting. It tells you you're safe. But if you hear it loud, it's terrifying. You're too close. It's too late.
After the story in the woods, Kenosha won't go to the south wing, where the theater is. At all. Like, not even for Chem Lab. I told her, Kenosha, you're putting your whole chem grade in jeopardy, but she will not go anywhere near that theater.
She started to talk bad about the play. She said, this play is like a malady. I had no idea what she meant by that.
She told me it would be like a sick dog, only scarier.
She said it would leave a greenish taste in my mouth.
It's amazing she had time to go to class. She talked with over a quarter of the school.
She pulled me aside and said, I don't think you should go to the play. Let's play charades that night.
We should have a movie night.
She said, please, please, don't go. And I said, Kenosha, I'm in the play.
She was so scared to go to the play, but of course she went anyways. She thought she could save all those people. My mind isn't anchored. It weighs down my thoughts, and I can't see through it.
She said, please, I like you more than water.
She told everyone the play was going to end in horror. I knew she couldn't lie, and yet I still didn't believe her.
Email from Marion J. to Gwendolyn Hayes, October 4th, 3 days before he was found dead in his study.
Pheronox are perfect replicas of people. These things pass for human everywhere. They mimic our emotions. And the only person who's ever been able to detect a Pheronox was somebody who was mimicking emotions herself. It was the girl who disappeared. Kenosha.
Email from Marion J. to Gwendolyn Hayes, October 5th, 2 days before Marion J.'s death.
Miss Hayes, please respond to me. When a Ferronox attack, it's 99.9% fatal, like rabies. When you're attacked, you have up to 2 weeks until your heart stops. But it's going to stop. In the whole history of the time that this has been going on, there's only ever been one survivor.
I was still working with Slush Pile. There was only one person who knew what happened that night, and if I was going to talk to her, I was going to need an angle. I walked into Sergeant Brock's office without knocking and said, "Let me talk to the girl."
I said, "The girl's useless."
She said 4 words to the fireman, which doesn't make sense.
She wanted out of there.
What if what she said was 4 words? She was trying to tell him about something that someone had said. Let me talk to the girl. I can get those 4 words.
With all the bodies in the theater, it felt heavy and warm, like a greenhouse. It was 241 bodies, but they'd put IV tubes into all of them, so the IV bags were up to about this high. And that's what you noticed at first. It was kind of beautiful, as the theater was dark, and those bags glowed.
He came to me and he said, "I want to take some time off."
And he said, "I'm sorry, I need all hands on deck right now."
Efren said, and he choked up. He said, "I know these people. I love these people."
I wanted to help out in the theater. I wanted to figure out what the noises the bodies were making. And he said, "No one can hear those noises except you."
And Efren said, "That's why they need me."
Manachap Psychiatric Facility, Stabilization Room 4, October 21st, 9:30 a.m.
Angela, may I come in? I'll stay over here. My name is Gwendolyn Hayes, and I'm one of the people who's trying to figure out what happened in the theater. Does that security camera bother you? It shouldn't. It's just there in case if something went wrong, which it won't, then they'd be able to look at it afterwards to see what happened. I feel like I know you. Everyone I've talked to, I mean everyone, when I mention your name, their whole voice bubbles up. They talk about your soccer and your sense of humor and that CPR class you organized. Right now, a lot of people are in need of your help, and whatever went wrong at the Oak Box is still going on. I have this theory about what you said to the fireman. He said 4 words, but I think what you said was 4 words. Can you tell me which of those it was? I have something I want to ask you.
Get away from me!
I'm sorry!
Get away!
Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry!
Help! Help me!
Theater Camera 1, October 25th, 2:45 a.m.
Anyway, Emily, I'll be back to check on you soon. Oh, Mr. Mel, this is Efren Salas. I was a part of your 8th grade trigonometry class 14 years ago. I'm here to make sure you're safe and comfortable, but that's not all. I think you're making sounds, you and everyone else in this theater. If you can make any noise at all, I'll hear you. Trust me, I have great hearing. Try it for me. The year that I was in your class was the year that those midterms got taken off your desk before you had time to grade them. Make a noise if you remember that. See, it's a nice memory for me because I was one of the 6 kids who had that period free. And instead of making me a suspect, you deputized me. I was new to the school and nervous, and I never got a chance to tell you how that made me feel, to be trusted like that. The whole experience shaped me to be the man that I am today. It's part of why I fight fires. So, I wanted to tell you, I did steal those tests. Hey!
Quiet.
She made a sound. Nobody heard that? Do it again, just one more time.
You need to keep it down.
But they can hear us.
Menachap Psychiatric Facility, Stabilization Room 4.
Thank you for seeing me again.
Answer every question. You pause more than a second and I kick you out. What's a book you read in high school English?
Hamlet.
In 15 seconds. Tell me your life.
Born and raised in Indiana, wanted to be an artist, so I moved to New York City. That didn't work out, but I met my husband. We moved here so that I could pursue law enforcement, and my daughter's in 3rd grade.
6 times 8?
48.
What's your greatest fear?
Millipedes.
What's the secret?
What secret?
Tell me the secret, or I kick you out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was 4 words.
4 words that someone said that night, yes?
Yes.
What were they? You don't even have to say them. You could write them down or whisper them as soft as you want.
I'm too scared.
There's nothing here that can hurt you. Who said the words, male or female?
A female.
Adult or student?
An adult.
What were the words?
I'll tell you next time.
Give me the first word. Give me just the first word.
The.
The. The first word is the. Thank you. Theater camera 3.
There are these scientists in Guangzhou, China, who have this special therapy that helps coma patients. It's this big machine, and it produces sound waves. And it's so big that it has to be flown in a cargo plane. It's flying over the Pacific right now. Oh, and in Cape Town, they have these special drops that go in your eye that help stimulate brain function. People all over the world, in many different ways, are praying for you.
Efren,
Captain Donovan.
I've got bad news. The EEG results came back. None of the bodies show brain function.
No brain function that they can measure.
It would register.
You're not a scientist. What if whatever happened to them hides the brainwaves?
That's not possible.
This isn't possible.
They're breathing, but they're as good as dead.
Then why are they making those sounds?
Nobody hears those sounds but you.
I have great hearing.
Or because you want to hear them.
I hear them.
Never shout at me.
I'm sorry.
It isn't good for you to be here so much.
It gives me strength.
When was the last time you slept?
I don't need sleep. They're sleeping for me.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't want to lose you too.
Fine then. I'll sleep.
Menachap Psychiatric Facility, Stabilization Room 4.
Angela, I brought you something. I hear you're good. I brought sheet music if you feel like playing. I'm gonna set this here. I would love to hear you play, but to do that, I'm gonna have to get close to you if that's okay. I'm gonna reach one hand back here, and I'm going to. There. What are you, too achy to play something? How about this?
Gymnopédie No. 1 by Eric Satie. It's famous for being calming, soothing. In Europe, parents play it to calm their kids.
Beautiful. Whenever you're ready, what's the second word?
Plays.
The plays. What's the third word? Let the music calm you down.
Not.
Good. The plays, not. What's the fourth word?
Over.
The play's not over. Why does that scare you, Angela?
Theater cameras 4 and 6, October 14th, 4 p.m.
Captain Donovan, I figured it out. I know what's going on.
I'm here to escort you out.
No.
Yes, Efren.
But I figured it out.
We're worried about you.
But haven't you ever had that dream where something scary's coming at you and you can't move and you can't make a sound, except you can make these tiny little squeaks that people outside the dream can hear? They're trying to scream their way out.
Efren, you know I like you, and I think you respect me.
I do.
But you are not in your right mind.
I'm fine.
I disagree, and I'm ordering you to come with me.
They need me here.
There is no they anymore.
Then why are they making those sounds?
The debate now is when to take them off life support.
No!
The doctors made this decision.
They got it wrong.
I need you to come with me.
Or what?
Or you're fired.
I don't care about that.
No department in this country will hire you.
I'll change careers.
I'm 2 seconds away from dragging you out.
You're not big enough.
I brought deputies.
I'll slip between the bags.
Get out of this theater right now!
No.
Guys!
But there's still people in these bodies. Please, listen to me. I need you to know one thing. It's that you are loved. This town loves you. God loves you, and I love you. And I will not let anything happen to you. But please, if you can, I need you to reach back to me. I need you to do it right now. Just give me 1%, and I will reach out the other 99.
Let's go, Efren.
Shh. You guys hear all that?
I hear it.
I do too.
I hear it too. They're in there. We'll find a way to get them out.
We've been over this.
Something protected you.
I don't know what.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure.
Hand the play. You can't remember anything other than those 4 words? The play's not over?
I would tell you if I could. It's all blank.
Angela, the people in the theater are running out of time. I have something I want to ask you.
What?
When you get out of here tomorrow, I want you to come with me to the theater.
No.
I'll be right with you.
I can't.
My guess is, when you go in there, you're gonna remember what happened. Let's go through the performance day one more time.
It was a typical Friday. Math, biology, English, PE, social studies, Toastmasters.
Which you said is after school at the Y.
Yeah.
Are you a good speaker?
No, that's why I'm in Toastmasters. Whenever I have to speak, my head gets all light and my chest tightens up. Oh.
What?
It was my day to speak. My dad's an internist. He gave me a pill, Indro. It just keeps the adrenaline from taking over so I can breathe normally.
You took a pill that blocks adrenaline?
No. I took 3.
Fear isn't rational. Scary movies make us wince even though we know there's no way anything could come out of that screen to hurt us. If anything, it's theater that should be scary.
Unsent email from Marion J. The day of his death.
The attack is so simple. The Faranok asks, "Can I tell you a secret?" And the victim says yes, and that's a mistake, as the victim thinks of all the horrible things that secret could be. The Faranok whispers something, and a tiny extension of her incisors punctures the eardrum and drains every bit of adrenaline in the victim's body, and they fall unconscious to the floor. These things frighten me. I study them, but I study them at a distance. These things border the monsters that we pretend scare us and the people that actually do.
Theater cameras 1, 2, 3, and 5. Recording.
You can do this.
Hey, who's there?
It's us, Detective Haitian. You remember Angela. You carried her out of here.
Ah, yes. Hello. Are you all right?
No.
This place takes some time getting used to.
I know almost every face.
You can help them. If you can remember what happened, that could make the difference.
Are they all still alive?
We're giving them water and nutrients, but soon that's not gonna be enough.
Could you leave us alone for a bit?
Sure, I'll be in the back. There's others there if you need us.
Do you remember where you were sitting?
Right where I am now?
I want you to think about the days leading up to the play. There were posters all around school.
Yeah, they said don't tell a secret. But then they changed and said, can I tell you a secret?
Good. Then they added the title of the play. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't remember the title of the play?
I don't.
It might help to get up on stage.
No.
Angela, just come up here with me. You made a phone call from up here. Do you remember that?
I don't.
What do you remember from that night?
I was running in the parking lot. I was late because of Toastmasters, but it turned out I didn't have to worry. There was some kind of electrical problem that kept us all in the lobby.
Angela, come up here with me. I won't let anything happen to you. I want you to take a deep breath, lower your head, and close your eyes. On the count of 3, I want you to lift your head and open your eyes. 1, 2, 3.
911, what's the emergency?
I don't know.
Is it life-threatening?
Yes.
Are you safe right now?
No.
I'm sending someone, more than one. The cars are already on the way. What's your name, sweetie?
Angela.
Angela?
Angela, I'm sending them to the Oak Box. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's a play tonight. The high school's doing a play. Is that where you are?
Yes.
In the theater.
Yes.
And somebody's hurt.
Everybody.
What's that again? Where are you in the theater?
I'm just standing on the stage.
Take a very, very deep breath. Hold it.
Angela, what are you thinking about?
The end. Calling for help, knowing it was too late.
I want you to look at something. This is the program from that night. That's the title of the play.
Trap.
What's wrong?
It was right in front of us.
What was?
It should have been obvious. The play was a trap, and it was even called Trap. The play was in sections. 1, a picture of infinity. 2, the oak box. 3, what held them. What held us. Something had happened in a theater at a school play. Everyone had fallen over. Unconscious.
But what happened in the play? What was the story about?
That is what it was about.
In the play you were watching, people had fallen over unconscious in a theater?
Yeah, it was mostly interviews, like a documentary. Everyone had fallen over, except for one girl.
And in the play, what had happened to them?
There were these creatures, things that looked human, but they weren't. They were called Pharonauts. They attacked the audience one by one, and then all at once.
Those are just things in the play. They're not real.
Yes, they are.
I promise you they're not.
They confuse people. The play was about all the things that were going to happen to us. So when it started, we couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't.
Creatures who feed on fear and put on plays.
It's ridiculous.
Sounding like they're ridiculous is how they hide.
Even if they were real, they're not here now. I want you to take a very, very deep breath. Hold it.
Stay away from me!
What's wrong?
Who's here? Who's in the theater?
Hey, are you alright?
I think so. Should we leave?
No. I just got freaked out.
This place can do that. Do you want me to stay?
Please, just for a little bit.
Tell me more about those creatures.
In the final section of the play, which was also called Trap, they started to attack.
Attack the audience?
Yeah.
How did they do that?
In the story, there was this girl. She walked down into the audience, and she was narrating what she was doing. She stopped in front of a girl and asked her a question. Can I tell you a secret? She leaned down and whispered something. The girl fell over, out of her chair. But the audience didn't think anything of it, because if you looked in your program, she was listed as Fallen Girl. The girl moved up a few rows and did the same thing. Can I tell you a secret? She leaned down and...
There was something we couldn't understand. If a Farrakhan attack depends on anxiety, then why were these people falling over? They didn't think it was real, so they should have been safe. What these people were worried about wasn't death. It was that the actor would whisper in their ear, and they wouldn't know what to do. They had stage fright, which, as it turns out, is just as fatal as fear of death.
By the time she got to me, I was scared. She whispered to me, but nothing happened.
You'd taken the Inderal?
Yeah.
How many people had fallen over by then?
A lot.
Why wouldn't anyone else have left?
They all thought it was part of the play. A girl's phone had gone off, but again, if you looked in your program, she was listed as Cell Phone Girl. Can I tell you a secret?
Stop the play!
Who's that?
My name is Kenosha R. Siblin Johnson. Everyone, listen up. In a calm and orderly manner, leave the theater. You have to leave the theater for your own safety. There's a small child trapped outside a car in the parking lot, and you all have to go and make sure it's not your car.
Worst liar in the entire world.
Please leave.
They all think you're a part of the play.
You're the one playing me.
Yup.
You're not human.
What am I then?
A Farrakhan. You're a human and stay away from them. Now will you leave?
They all think you're a part of the play. Because you are a part of the play.
No, I'm not.
Then why are you in the program?
I'm not.
Yes, you are. It says, real Kenosha.
This is a trick.
There's a part of the play where you get chased in the woods.
You made up a whole part of the play in case I come back during the attack?
It's part of our script.
There is no script.
Right here.
That's not real. This is a trap.
It's a high school play.
The perfect trap. Everyone has to come and no one's allowed to leave. They feed on your stress. Pretty soon the lights will go out, you'll hear crazy loud noise, and their eyes will light up as they start to feed.
There's nothing you can do to get them out of their chairs.
I don't have to get them out of their chairs. I just have to get rid of you.
Good luck.
I've been hiding in the theater the whole time preparing a surprise.
What's your surprise?
If I told you, then it wouldn't be a surprise. They're feeding on your stress, so relax yourself from the outside in. Now take a deep breath. Do it. And smile. I promise you will not be called on as part of this performance. What's wrong?
Nothing.
Then why are you wilted?
We're acting. Stop. I want to tell you a secret.
No.
If you let me tell the secret, I'll wake up the rest of the audience. I can do it.
I don't believe you.
Your only chance to save them is to believe me. Can I tell you a secret?
Stop smiling. Go ahead.
Can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you a secret?
Can I tell you a secret? I took 4 Inderal. Surprise?
Too bad. You lost your remote and everyone out there still thinks this is a play.
Everyone but one. Mom! Now!
That was the sound I heard that night. The sound of all of those people being freed. The best scream you could imagine.
25 days after the events of the Oak Box began, they came to an end.
My name's Angela Alert. I survived the Manichap Farinock attack.
My name's Clifton Barnes. I survived being in the play.
My name is Mora Aoki. I'm alive because of Kenosha R. Soberling Johnson.
Kenosha saved my life. My whole family was in the theater that night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenosha.
Love you, Kenosha.
The people who'd been unconscious, they had no memory of what had happened, but it changed them. I published 3 papers.
I got a medal.
I got a promotion.
I got a parade.
I got Kenosha.
For a short time last year, the town of Manchap, California became famous. But the fame went away fast. What had happened seemed impossible. Psychologists wrote it off as a form of mass hysteria. People getting scared in a place they were already scared of.
I lived through the events and even I'm not sure. Was it another eye in the people thing? The most scared I have ever been. But it was just me, scaring me.
The thing about a trap is, it needs to confuse the prey. Why would a play have a false ending? What's real? What's not?
I'm sorry, everyone, for the delay. There's a problem with the lights.
The prey is most vulnerable when it thinks it's escaped.
The spider's not home.
The web almost breaks.
I'm almost out of the woods. It was just me scaring me.
Recursion, a high school play about a high school play. An audience being attacked while watching a play about an audience being attacked.
You say to an audience, "You're going to die!" And they stay in their seats because they don't want to miss it.
All Farinox are 16 years old.
Except one.
People are naturally afraid of the dark.
Can I tell you a secret?
Can I tell you a secret? No.
Can I tell you a secret?
In the distance, a foghorn tells you you're safe. But if it's loud, you're too close.
Can I tell you a secret?
It's too late.